Hey, everybody. We're finally getting the hang of that countdown thing. And I guess you have to hit like, go live as it's counting down.
Something, I don't know.
Right, Lisa? So, and we get chatting, like Lisa comes on about an hour earlier, and we're like chatting away, and we're like, one of these times we're going to forget we have a live,
Yeah.
So thank you guys for being here. We love that you're here. And in the comments section, be sure to like say, where you're coming in from and your name. We love that. And also like give us some ideas for topics that you want to have us talk about. I mean, I am working on a series, and it sounds like a lot of people are kind of liking the fact that they're seeing it from beginning to end, which I enjoy as well, because part of why I'm here is to get myself to be more productive.
Me too.
So I hope it's working for you guys. If it's helping you be like more productive and making use of that 10-minute time period, which I'm going to be making a pretty big deal of as we get into the fall. For those of you in ASM, that 10 minutes can grow into an hour and 2 hours, right, Lisa? Do you find that to be true?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You just lose all track of time.
Lisa was organizing her studio for like how many hours?
About 7 yesterday.
Now I want pictures though. I want proof.
Okay.
Okay, great. So guys, today what we're going to be talking about, this is episode 11. And I'm excited because I have made quite a lot of progress on my little panels here. And remember, they all started as slop boards, right? And this one I actually did yesterday. I had 2 that were, how it's just like you've got like, say, 8 pieces and 2 of them are like, I think I'll do those like last because they're going to be my most difficult ones. Well, that actually did happen with me. And I had 2 problem children because they had colors that weren't in my palette, which, is here. And so what I want to talk about today is first give you an update on where my series is and some of the thoughts I've had as I've worked on these slop boards, which is still kind of amazing to me that you can take something so like meaningless, right, as a slop board. Now this is a new slop board. So in the process of working on these 8 boards, I've generated 2 more slop boards, and I'm pretty sure that they are going to become part of the series. And the reason for that is they've got the same palette, right? And this is actually what my earlier slop boards look like. So why wouldn't they become part of the series? And then the more I thought about that, I have a show in a year. Normally I've always in my own mind wanted to give myself 2 years for a show because it takes a lot of time. And but what I'm realizing is that now that I've done this series, and as I talked about was that last week when I did this little diagram here about the spokes on the wheel?
Yes. Everybody really loved that too.
Well, thanks. I want to tell you that this series that I'm going to show you right now is a series that has legs. I'm very happy to say it because you know what? I don't do a lot of series where I feel like this or this or this guy over here. I mean, I do a lot of these one-off things that like these spokes on the wheel, like, I'm like, okay, sort of, maybe not okay, I'm not sure. And then I cross it out. So in my own mind, this diagram helps me because now I realize that my lexicon series, for whatever reason, I didn't know this was going to happen, but I'm really liking what's happening. So what I'm going to do, and this is all about cohesion. Like, I'll admit that I've done so many different kinds of like work, and I didn't always understand why that was. But now this is like 30 years into it, guys, and I'm finally like realizing that it really mattered. Like this, I was so taken by Willa's painting, number one. So the palette for me was like so deep down felt. I watched her paint and she chose these colors and I gave her options. She's only 3. She'd say, I want green. Well, which green? Light green, middle green, dark green. And she'd say, the white one, which I took to mean the light green, right? So these colors have so much meaning for me because at 3 years old, she was able to show that she has love and she loves purple, right? That's her favorite color right now. So as her grandma, I'm thinking, okay, she chose these colors, and as a tribute to my little bit of time that I spent with her and the painting she did, I'm going to do a series number 1 on those colors. And the impact of that emotional connection, like, and I loved her painting too, is that number 1, I've now found a palette, and you know what? This palette is one that it's limited, but what I want to say is that it has 2 sets of complements. It has red and green. Okay, now that could be a palette all on its own, just red and green. It also has purple and yellow, another complement. So there are 2 sets of complements in this palette, which you know, there are artists who actually use that. Carol Marine, I think, did an awesome show, and I talked to her about her palette. She's like, yeah, I use 2 sets of complements. I had never done that before. Well, I did it, and I didn't even realize I was doing it until like a few days ago. I'm like, oh, there's 2 sets of complements here, plus 1 extra color. So that's the first thing, is that in order for your series to have legs, I think, there needs to be like this, something deep down that, you know, is wanting you to go deeper and explore, well, what could this be? And as I think about this palette, I want to keep, for the next year, I'm going to be using this palette, but I might switch out 1 color at a time. Like maybe instead of purple, I'll put in blue. Maybe instead of red, I'll put in, you know, a deeper, I don't know, phthalo blue, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The point is that I think this is how series work can become very important for like leading to the next thing and then the next thing. Can you see how if you change just 1 color in a palette, that the next series will definitely relate to the first series? The color palette will change, but it will be like, you know, you'll have 8 or 10 pieces in one palette, and you'll have 8 or 10 pieces in another that most of the colors are the same, but then there's one outlier there. So you're not being too boring. You're like repetition with variation. So that new color is a variation. The second thing I've noticed, and Lisa, if we can spotlight the camera on my table.
Sure.
If I could, I'll add it to the stream. That would help, wouldn't it?
Oh, where'd it go?
Sorry, guys.
Oh, I'm adding it again. Here, wait, let me do it. Let me do it. Let me do it. Ah! Okay,
you got it.
Just a second. Yes, here, solo. Okay.
Yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen, guys.
Yeah.
You and I are fighting to cook, and I don't even like to cook. Okay, so
me either. Uh-oh, we're gonna starve.
No, we have our Atkins bars. Okay, so with this series, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the fact that I've always known I love letters, and I guess I kind of talked about this previously, but as I've worked on this series and made my own stencils, let me just grab some of those. Yeah, I do use some store-bought things, but you know, I'm often like trying to make my, like, look, this is a letter here, and I cut these out of Bristol board, and I've just been cutting and cutting and cutting, right? So these are just always here for me to use on the next series, and because I don't know why, right? And you don't have to, this is another big revelation for me, big aha moment. You don't have to know why. Like this looks like a sewer pipe. I don't think I love sewer pipes, but I don't have to know why I like a weird shape like this. It is what it is. And letters are symbols, you know, and I've never thought I even liked symbols. And I started to think about, well, wait a minute, letters are symbols. So I guess language, I only know 1 language. I've never learned a foreign language. And my mother was Japanese, and I love Japanese characters. So I can see how those characters, even though I don't know what they are, I could make stencils of those and do a whole lexicon series based on the Japanese kanji, I think it's called. So this is where I've hit upon something that's, for whatever reason, like really meaningful to me. And I want, like, I've always thought the reason I don't have cohesion is because I've never had anything that like was so exciting to me that I wanted to do more of it. Now, other artists whose voices you recognize easily, that's probably not the case for them. They hit upon something that they really loved and they ran with it. So they ran with something that had legs. So what I guess I'm trying to say is that I finally, after 30 years, guys, I mean, and I do have other series that I do love. It's not that I don't, but in terms of, there are a lot of things that I have to consider if I'm working toward a show. Now I'm going to be doing my lexicon series in both acrylic and cold wax and oil. And if I can squeak it out in acrylic, in caustic, I'll do it. But getting these types of shapes is a little bit harder in that medium. So of course that is a consideration, right? And that's a choice and a decision you have to think about. So anyways, today is all about sanding and glazing. I just want to show you where I'm at. These are my two last boards I did yesterday, but I'm going to show you the ones that they're kind of like quite far along, and I'm quite pleased with them. And I'm not sure how much more I'm going to do with them because there's something about them. There's a bit of imperfection here, which I was talking to Lisa. The Japanese heritage is all about perfection. I grew up with that, and living under that cloud of like everything must be perfect. In my adult life, I fight against it tooth and nail. Like not only do I not want to be perfect, I'm so far from being perfect that it makes me happy. Like, and that's true in Japanese architecture. I've heard that even though the Japanese are about perfection, they'll leave one little thing off, that is not perfect to say that, it's funny because they're so about perfection, yet they leave a little hint of something that's not perfect. So these are not going to be perfect. They will be clarified to the extent where I want to have them. But am I going to like labor over every little tiny thing that I could make more perfect? No. So this one has obviously letters that oftentimes I'll choose letters that are meaningful to me, but they also have like a dual meaning. Like a W can represent our granddaughter, but it can also be an M. So it can have multiple meanings, and for anyone looking at a painting like this, they bring their own life story and meaning to a painting like this. And that's why the language to me is so fascinating, because people have come up to me and they'll start telling me what they see in a painting. I'm like, oh, and they tell me a story about all that it means to them. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So anyways, this is one of them. This is a slot board. I don't know. You can see the difference. So this is where like something like this would have begun. But it wasn't
so
that
awesome, Pam.
I know, Lisa, you probably love the color one.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I do too. There's something about it that, it's very Willow-like, but the point is that this one started very much like this guy. So this is one. These are my two slot boards that, these will become part of the series. Let's get back to, I'm not sure I have them all in front of me. Oh, there's the other ones. Okay. So this one I did yesterday. This is one of the ones that was not, it was like one of my big problem children because of this very bright purpley pink. And I don't think Willa did that. It was. Yeah, Willa did that when I gave her tempera paint. So that's tempera paint. That was a hard one. And then this is the other one I did yesterday. And the reason I did these yesterday was because I want to show you the sanding. So these have not been sanded, and they do not have any glaze on them. So these are my two demo boards for today. My other ones are over here. So I've done all these, like, you guys know when I started this series probably 2 weeks ago or something. And part of what I like about this series is that I'm able to get down what I'm trying to say and feel rather quickly. So that's another good indication that you're excited. If I were really struggling with this, like, oh my God, I just don't know what to do, that can impact how you feel about something. And I sort of feel like, wow, the more excited you are, maybe that's how art becomes more like you're more prolific, you've got momentum, you're excited, you've got a plan. And this is all new for me, you guys. Anyway, all right, so some letters here, and I've done two things here. There's paint, and then there's some collage paper. And The reason for using collage paper is not because I am in love with collage. What I'm in love with is what happens when you distress it. It's a little bit higher up in topography, and some papers have texture. And I like the weathered feeling, but I don't necessarily want it everywhere. So I let sometimes these raised areas catch the sander. And so I'll just show you all these real fast. Some are glossy because they've got gloss medium on them. When they have gloss medium on them, they're ready to go with the glaze. And I'll talk about that too, because that's the topic of today. If they're glossy, they're ready for glaze. If they're like the ones I first showed you, the ones I did yesterday, there's no glaze on here. Now you guys might glaze when there's no gloss medium, but I don't. There's a process, and my process may differ from yours, so I'd love to know what you do, but I'm saving these two as demo boards. So let me just continue to show you the rest of the series. This one, glossy. This one could be glazed. This one's glossy. It could be glazed. And I did this one like 2 days ago, and it's really weird. And the other thing I decided or realized about myself is that the stranger something is, like this one's just funky weird. I don't even know why I like it. So I find that intriguing. I don't want to know. I almost don't want to know why I like it. I don't need to know why. I just know that weird is good. Maybe it's because I've always thought I'm weird. So,
and it is weird, but I like it too.
Thanks, Lisa. I mean, my teenage years were a disaster. I felt like I didn't even live on this planet. So
yeah,
right. And it's like there's a very awkward part of my life that I don't even want to even think about it because it was so hard. So maybe that's what these paintings do for me. Is like, they're part of me because they're just weird. Okay, so now we're going to talk about like sanding and glazing. I've got these two sample boards here. And the reason why I wouldn't just say slap on a glaze, and let's talk about what makes great glazes. Any color, first of all, can be used as a glaze, but colors, professional grade colors usually will tell you on the label whether it's transparent, semi-transparent, opaque, semi-opaque, whatever. That doesn't really even matter because no matter what it is, you can take the most opaque color and you can thin it out with now I'm working on acrylic, but the same is true about coal wax and oil. You can thin out an opaque paint. You just use the medium. So I have golden airbrush medium as one of my thinners. I have golden medium gloss or matte liquid here. You can hear it shaking. Those could thin out an opaque color to make it into a glaze. But some colors like quinacridone nickel azo gold, which I recently found out from Golden is discontinuing the color, and I'm the last person on the earth to find that out, according to Lisa. It's okay. This is my favorite. Why am I the last to know?
I don't know.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm just not in the know. I get it. No. Nobody thought of telling me. All right. So you guys need to tell me if the big color is being discontinued. This is one of my favorites, but I just want to explain that if you have a series of work and you've got both warm and you've got cool, right? And you kind of want everything to have like this similar warm glow to it. If you put the warm color over even your cool ones, then the cool ones will feel more like of the same family as the warm ones, even though it's a cool painting. You can do the same thing with a cool glaze. Now this one's phthalo, and anything with the word phthalo or Windsor is a highly potent staining color, and you want to be really careful with how much you put on, because if you're new to glazing and you're like, oh, let me try phthalo blue, and you put like a cup's worth on your painting, that thing is going to go so blue that you're going to be horrified, and that wouldn't be great. Same with phthalo green.
Oh my, yeah.
I mean, these are colors that I find hard to love. So if you want to talk about colors that you have, they're like hard to fall in love with. It's because they need to be like combined with other colors. Anything will do to make them more lovable. And then another favorite of mine is this quinacridone crimson. So the quinacridones, you can kind of see here from the labels, that Golden has, they put a little swatch and over the black lines, and you can tell how transparent it is by how much you can see the black lines, which I really appreciate the company doing, until you get so much paint on the label that you can't see anything anymore. So I'm gonna just say that the reason I don't put the glaze directly on a painting like this that is not glossy, so this is just paint, some collage paper, and that's about it, right? Because if I were to put paint on this, it'd be hard to remove enough of the glaze and to still have like this composition intact. Because what a glaze does is it makes darks go lighter and lights go darker. And a lot of times if you're new to glazing, you're like, oh my gosh, I just totally ruined my painting. Has that ever happened to you, Lisa? Like when you glazed?
Yes. Oh, yes. I thought, oh my goodness. And, I'm just trying to wipe it off and get it off and start over, right? And what did I do, right?
Your heart sinks. You're like,
yeah.
What just happened? Well, the good news is nothing happened. You're fine. Yeah. But there are a couple things you can do to minimize that horrible heart-sinking feeling. So
that's right.
That's why, that's the purpose of today is I know that feeling, and I don't like the feeling, and I would assume that other people who are new to glazing might not want that feeling as well. So that's why I want to talk about it. So these are the two that don't have they have not been sanded, and they're not really, in my opinion, ready to be glazed because they don't have that gloss medium or matte medium, doesn't matter which. So then I want to talk about what do you sand with, right? This little humble sander here is still my favorite of all. I've tried all these things, right? You go to the hardware store, it's like a candy store. And you're like, oh, what about this one? Or, what about a sanding block? Or I think we were visiting, I don't know, we were somewhere, and I just went to the hardware store and I found this model. And what I liked about it was it has this little doohickey here that, it lifts. You see how it lifts it up? Because one of the things I hate about these types of models is how hard it is to replace the sandpaper. Like, I don't know why somebody hasn't come up with a better model of this, because I have a hard time getting the paper out and putting it in. Does anyone have that problem with this?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, if anyone has a great way to put new paper in here easily without I have to lift this darn thing up, and it's really hard. And I do cut my paper in advance so that at least I have that part done, right? I can replace my paper, but then getting it in there is okay, I have to spend the next 10 minutes doing it. It's kind of a pain. So this is my favorite sander for small scale. Okay. So it's not that I do have all these others I've tried, but I'm not real attached to them. Now, if I'm working on, and this works on wooden panels, it works on acrylic, it works on cold wax and oil, as long as it's completely dry. So now I will get out the heavy duty thing here, my Makita. It doesn't have the battery on it, but what I like about this model is it's got Velcro, and you can just tear off. So that's a lot easier, right? And easy is good. It comes in different grits, and you want to make sure you line up the holes with the sandpaper, because the whole point of this is that the dust goes into this little bag, and then it means it's capturing most of it and it doesn't go into the air. So I will say, for safety purposes, that I'm using a hand sander here, and I'll do that this morning. Normally, if I ever can, I'll just go outside and do it, because I'd rather do that than wear gloves and a mask and goggles. And I'm not saying I would always do that. I would do it if I was being really good, but I'm usually not good. And I take risks, but you really want to be careful. I know an artist who was quite well known in Montana, and his entire process was sanding paper. Gorgeous, gorgeous work. But, he died of a lung disease, and they kind of thought it was due to the fact that he did so much sanding. So just, if you're a big sander, please just think about that and protect your health. So the other thing to talk about is what do you sand with in terms of the grit? And so I've got out a couple papers here. These I've pre-cut because this is a common size that I will use. It's a 220. And the higher the number, the more fine grain it is. So this is a 220. It's pretty fine. This one is a 100, very coarse, like, coarse, like if you're going to sand your barn. Now, there might be a time when you would use something that coarse, but I got out a variety here just to show you that it does matter what you use. Now, this one's a 150, so this one is more coarse than this one, and they get progressively finer. Now, this one is the 220 that I have in my hand, and then this one's the finer, like 320 is really fine. You can go finer than that, but just know the higher the number, the finer it is, right? So I'm going to be using 220 today, and that's on this guy. And then you can use steel wool. This is 4-0, and 4-0 means 4 zeros. That is, at least where I live, the finest grade of like least amount of coarseness. And you can tell by this thing on the bottom here, it's this it's red, and that means that's what this is. Let me just turn this off.
Did you mention the model of the Makita?
Oh, it's on I think it's on my website, but under the resource thing, it just says
right.
Makita lithium ion, and then it's a 4AH, which I don't know what that even means.
Yes,
yeah, Makita XOBO1. Not that it matters, you guys. I'm sure like these models change all the time, but I like this one because it's handheld. It's got the little baggie on the end, which you can easily pop off and dump out, and then switch out the sandpaper easily with Velcro. So for all those reasons, I love the Makita, and it does have a rechargeable battery. So
I just put your favorite resources at the bottom so everybody can go to the website and look all those things up, including the hand sander you have in your hand.
Yeah, I don't know if I have this guy, but this one's so generic, like you can go anywhere, and it's the hardest one to replace the sandpaper in, but it's kind of my favorite. Now, so when I sand, how coarse is the sandpaper? That's important to know, and I've got collage paper on here. Sometimes it goes over the end of the board, and I do try to cut that off, pretty much with the blade before I sand, just because if you catch the edge of collage paper, it can tear it a little bit, especially if you didn't quite glue it on really well. So those are some things to check for before you start sanding. And then I'll just look at the board, and you don't have to sand over the whole thing. There could be areas that you just don't want to sand. But for me, I've got collage paper here, and I mentioned that one of the reasons I like collage paper is because it is raised up a hair, right? It's not raised up too much. So I'm going to just take the sander and kind of in a circular motion. It's already you can already see, oh my gosh, right there. You can already see with hardly any effort at all, it's starting to hit the paper here. And that tells me how fragile it is. Now, the other thing I want to mention is I do sand collage paper before I put the gloss medium on. And I make a big deal about this in all my videos, because once you put the gloss medium on here, let's say I put the gloss medium on my collage paper before I sand, and you put that collage paper on there because you were totally in love with something on the collage paper. Well, the minute you start sanding, you're going to probably rip off the entire design. At least that's what's happened to me. So then I realized, if I love, for example, on this one, I loved this word musings, because not only do I love the word, but it's the palette that I have here. I was like, whoa. So if I put gloss medium over this first and then sanded, a lot of this would rip off when I sand it. Whereas if I sand it now, very gently, right? Just don't be too heavy-handed. You don't need to kill the darn thing, because you'll lose everything. But just a little bit of sanding. For those who like old walls and things like that, I mean, you probably can't see that too well.
I love it. So nice. Yeah.
So be careful, because you don't want to destroy it. And if you're kind of watching TV and sanding at the same time, you might look down and be like, well, where'd my painting go? So just be present, is all I can say, is be watchful of what's going on. I love to get the edges, and I will go over this paper. kind of a circular motion. I will put more pressure if I feel like it, you know, like I just put a little bit more pressure down here. Notice that I'm not, you know, I'm not going like this. It's really flat to the surface. And okay, and then sometimes you get this happen. That's okay. If it peels back, you can always get, if you happen to peel your paper back, you can always put a little dab of gel medium under it and get it to sit back down again. That's not a problem. Or you might want it to just rip off because you can always paint over it. So I'm going to hit this paper first, get it a little distressed, and I'm liking that a lot. Now over here, I stuck this on at the very last because it's collage paper, and this is actually really much heavier than this. So there are different thicknesses of collage paper. This one is more like true cardstock. And the neat thing about this is it has a texture. That's why I put it here. And I'll show you how quickly and how easy it is to bring out that texture. Now it might be too much, right? If it is, it's okay. Let's try to, yeah, you can see the texture of that paper there, but the color was right. And so then, again, the edges are something I'll do. Just go around it like this. And then I'll kind of get the corners. And sometimes I'll notice a little edge that pops up, like I was just sanding and something popped up. But, you know, if it pops up, that just, you know, you put a little bit of gel medium underneath it. Here, and this shape down here is like my little blimp or torpedo, whatever. I don't know why I like it. I just do. I don't need to explain why I like things.
Yeah, because everybody's likes are different, right?
Right. Oh, I had a lot of tearing happen there, but that's okay. Like, you know, if something tears, that's what came up. If it tears, you know, you've got paint. You can easily like either fill it in with a same color or different color. And then you also have different thicknesses of paint, right? So now it's been distressed, and what I'll do is I'll take my little, this is kind of a cool, it's just a brush, you know, for getting the crumbs off, and then I'll take my dustpan and put it in the garbage. Just again, keep your surface kind of clean if you can. Now,
do you have one of those little surface vacuums?
You know, I should get one. I have a Dyson, but it died on me, so I don't have a Dyson anymore. Those darn things, they cost so much and they don't even last long. So I'm not real happy about that. No. Getting back to this one again, like I just have to mentally like remember what I put on here. This is paint, and the thicker the paint is, you know, the more you might have to sand. This is paper, paint over paper. So again, the reason I like the paint over the paper is because this is a pretty large shape. And if I start to sand it gently like this, the whole reason I did this in a playful way, like I didn't plan it, you know, I didn't plan, I don't know how it's going to look when I sand it, but I do have painted long enough to know that when I put paint over collage paper, that when I sand it back, I'll get some unexpected things. So I love surprises. Who doesn't, I guess? But see what I love about this. Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Oh, it is. That's right? A surprise.
Yeah, that's a big surprise because there's that pink.
I love it.
Yeah, I was trying really hard to get rid of the pink, but there it is. So I guess it just wants to be there.
That's right.
Yeah. So guys, that's the sanding part of it. Now what I want to, that's the first part. Does anyone have any like thing to share about their experiences? Like any nightmares they've had with sanding or any great observations? Because I'd love to know.
Well, we've had a couple of comments, not about that yet. I'm sure they will, but you were not the only one that didn't know about the Quinn Nickel Azo Gold being discontinued. So everybody's very glad you mentioned it. And we also had somebody that asked about he noticed that they were flat and wondered what you did to keep them from warping. And so I mentioned Rexart. I put the banner out there. So I didn't know if you had any Rexart frames to show later. And
what do you mean as far as keeping the panels flat?
Yes.
Okay, well, one little trick, yeah, these wooden panels, Lisa and I are definitely like in love with Rexart, both their panels and their frames. And yes, I can show you one real soon here, but I have learned to gesso both sides of a wooden panel now. It's not that it'll become, perfectly flat, but it will be flatter. Not that that's even really a problem, because if they're 1/8 inch thick, a little bit of warpage, with the frame. Let me just grab a frame real quick. And Lisa, you can put up the code for Rexart if you want.
Yeah, I'll do that again.
Because you guys, being on my channel and being part of Art and Success, you guys get a 10% discount to the end of July. And again, they come in 2 different depths. I should say depth here. This is the thinner one. And so the cool thing is that, if you're framing something for your grandchild, you might go for this one, or you just, you're on a budget. If you want to splurge a little bit and you get the deeper one, it's a little bit nicer, museum, it has a museum quality look to it. But in any case, you have a choice. And here's the thing, guys, if the more frames that they sell right now, because this is all experimental. Yes. This is kind of a collaboration between, us and them, because they weren't even making these at all. And they're like, oh, you mean people want these? So they're making them. And if you guys buy them, they're going to make more sizes, like 16 by 16 or 18 by 18. Now, I don't see, this doesn't have an R on it, and this one does. I bought this panel on Amazon. Look how it's not square. And therefore, it doesn't fit. Now, I can trim it to get it to fit, but this is a Rex frame. And they make their own panels, and guess what? Why that's nice? Because their panels fit.
So if you fit. Yay!
So Amazon does not, whoever, I don't know what company I got these from, but they're not square. I mean, these frames that Rexart made are perfectly square, and they make their panels so they're going to fit, and that's of course the best thing. And so even if this piece is not maybe completely done, but and then here's the deeper one, so that's kind of fun. Again, if the more that they sell right now, this isn't Amazon. See, it doesn't have an R on the back, so that doesn't fit. I tried to use the R panels. Let's see, I tried to label them, but I just don't have a whole lot of the this is an R. Okay, so that Rex, I put an R on the back because see, they actually fit. And that's really great, right? So, okay, so let's just show the glazing part. This is a
Thanks for that, Pam.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, we both love their frames. Lisa told me about them, and I had heard about them, but never tried them. And then Lisa just went on and on about it. So it's like, okay, Lisa, that means I should try it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Grab some gloves.
And you can either do wires on the back, or you can just do the 2 nails level in your wall, or screws. Actually, whichever. They're easy. We do the wire and D-rings, my hubby and I. We do that on the back of the frames. But I think Pam prefers the 2 level screws. Is that right, Pam?
I do, but I wanted to say, here's Willa's painting again. And some people have asked, how do you get the panel into the frame? And I put little dabs of glue in the corners and 1 little dab of glue in the side, middle of each side. There it is. Now, I did put these little D-rings here because my son lives in Salt Lake City and he's worried about an earthquake. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to put a wire across. And then I just want to show you this little thing that I did. This is Willa's palette on the thumb drive. And because I recorded, you can see her palette, because she was very specific with her colors. I recorded us doing her painting together, and when she grows up and she's 18, she'll be able to have Nana and herself talking about this painting. So that's just, if you guys have grandchildren and you do a painting, I mean, can you see how special this could be if you give them a painting that they did and you frame it up, and maybe you did a recording about how they talk to you. Anyways, I just wanted to show you that.
Yes, and you do glue dots on the corners and then in the middle of the corners.
Yeah. Now, if you guys use silicone, a little bead of silicone, this is something a framing shop told me, then, you know, you could actually, I mean, you could do it with the wood glue as well. But if you, you can probably get that out of the frame a little bit more easily than with glue. But in any case, it's reversible. You know, you don't put a lot of glue in there because you don't need a lot. And then I weigh it down with books to make it flat. So that's why if your panel's not completely flat, you put this in the frame and then you put a piece of wax paper, freezer paper, whatever, and then put weight on it overnight. And now it's going to, even if it was warped a little bit, you just like, the frame is going to help it now. You just added the cradle to the board. All right. So I'm going to glaze this now. And before I glaze it, I just want to make sure that, like, you know, do I want to score it anymore? And sometimes I do. So one of my favorite things to do is to take my awl and it's, you know, like sharp, but you can use a nail if you don't have a tool like this. I feel like I get kind of aggressive with my artwork. Maybe it's saying something to me. I don't know. So I'll go like this. Now, when I do it right before I glaze, it's like I'm just going through the gloss medium all the way down to the board usually. And I've got other lines that may have gotten filled with gloss medium, and I might want to bring those back a bit, because that's what gloss medium will do, is it'll fill in. So, and again, this is a panel. This is not paper. I wouldn't score on paper. And as far as sanding on paper, you could sand on paper if you're super careful. Wouldn't be too heavy-handed with that. And okay. But again, this works. Everything I'm doing as far as the process, you can glaze and sand with oil and cold wax medium or with acrylic mixed media. So sometimes I'll just add a few lines here. Then I take my glaze and I'm going to use this nickel azo gold, which is now light gold because it's going to become rarer. And I could put it on straight like this, but I like to go from like this, start with less. So this is just airbrush medium. This is how I'm going to thin it out. And you can use just water if you don't have airbrush medium, but I just like, I don't know, I have it, so I'm going to use that. And then I shake this a little bit and put just a few drops in here. You don't need a whole lot. And then I'm just going to use my gloved hand to rub it on the surface because why not? And but
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, keep in mind though that I did sand the edges, so I kind of wanted, and here's where I gouged it again with that awl, and I want to make sure it gets into that little gouge mark, and you know, just kind of enjoy the process. It's a chance to get a little messy. It's good to have gloves on. You can obviously spread this with a paper towel or a brush if you're more civilized.
Why be civilized? Have fun.
Yeah, it's Monday.
That's right, July the 3rd.
Yeah. So now I'm going to take a blue shop towel, but it doesn't have to be a blue shop towel. It can be anything. And you want to, like, you know, really, I'm going to remove almost, you know, most of this here. And that's if you put it on really heavy, like full strength, and then you're not like aware, obviously, that it's setting up on you. I mean, you're going to be in for a big surprise. So you want to get it off while it's still wet. You can always put on more. But keep in mind that the thicker it is, if you don't like it, the more work you're going to have ahead of you. So I tend to go with, I'd rather go with multiple really thin glazes rather than one heavy-handed one. Now, there's not going to be a huge difference here, but I just wanted to show you that that's what I would do. And I put warm over this. There's a lot of cool in it, but now this cool area here and here, you know, and if I want to re-emphasize that a bit, I might sand this. And if you sand this, even after you glaze it, you can put more glaze on it. The glaze will be absorbed into the paper a little bit more. But you got to be a little careful. That's why you don't want to do it over a painting that has no gloss medium on it, because what would happen is if I were to put this glaze over this now, because I sanded this paint and it went all the way down to the paper here, it would fill in the exposed paper of the collage and be like really dark because it's like a sponge. And you could then sand it again and maybe get it back to where it was. But this just isn't protected. And so you would just have kind of like, this is all paper exposed, and that this glaze would completely soak into the paper and make it brown.
Yeah,
I don't want
it wouldn't be pretty. That's right. Elsa just asked about that. I'm glad you just mentioned it. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, you have to be aware that paper is like a sponge. And so all the places I've got exposed paper, it's like, yeah, give me some paint. I want to hold on to it. And it will. So unless you put a clear coat of this gloss medium or matte medium on it, you don't, necessarily want to glaze. You can. It'd be a different effect, though. It's not that you can't do it. You just have a different effect. Okay, so that's basically the demo for today. Does anyone have any questions about for Lisa or for me? Let's see here.
Let's see. Do you want me to put you up? There you are.
There we go. Well, I'm trying to get both of us. Let's see. We're both battling for the.
We are here. Yes.
Yeah. Questions, anybody? Okay. So why do you apply gloss medium? There we go for glazing. Yeah, that's a question. That's a good one. Let's just pop that question up here. And Elsa, yeah, the gloss medium is kind of like a shield. It's plastic, so you're kind of putting an umbrella on top of your paper collage. Now, if you don't have any collage paper, I'm kind of really talking in the context of having collage paper, which when collage paper and you sand it is different than, say, paint when you sand it. If you only had paint and you sanded it, I would say that unless you send it all the way down to the gesso, or even below the gesso, you're probably okay. Like you could get by with not the gloss medium. Would you say that's true, Lisa?
Probably, yeah, because it grabs onto that raw paper stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So paper's the reason why, the main reason, because mine are mixed media. So, and that's another question that I've heard from people when they exhibit, and they're like, gosh, how should I label my work? I've got colored pencil, I've got dry mark making, I've got collage paper. And the easiest way, I think, and Lisa, you do so many juried shows and things, just say like mixed media, right?
Right.
You don't have to put every single item on there, like, ink, pencil, crayon, because galleries and when people look at your label, they're like, they won't even know what those materials are for the most part. So substitute transparent. Oh, this is a good one from Vicky K.
Yes.
Nice. So transparent red iron oxide and nickel azo yellow. Cool. Now Vicky, is the transparent red iron oxide available from Golden?
Yes, it is. Matter of fact, they have a video that shows the two. I'll send it to you. That shows the two colors and the 4:2 ratio. So yeah, I will find that link and send it to you.
Okay. And let me grab this from Nancy. Years ago, an artist friend of mine told me that the medium in between layers of color provided a lift to the color, giving the paint more light. Ooh, therefore a richer color. Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
Yeah. I often think of that too. Like, even though a layer of gloss medium is thin, and it's true in encaustic as well, every time you put a layer of, say, just encaustic medium, you're elevating, and it gives a sense of depth. But in encaustic, because there's a cloudiness to the wax, I would say that the polymer, the gloss medium, is a great thing for getting you more depth, right, Nancy? That sounds cool. What else do we have here? Okay, so I love the fact that Vicki gave us a formula. And Janan, thank you. Yeah, I hope Willa likes it. Although she's more interested in worms and dirt right now. So I think
that's like you too, though. She likes gardening, apparently, like you, huh?
She does, yeah. Great. So Renee also suggests the nickel azo yellow with iron oxide. Why did I not know that?
I'm sorry.
So no. Yeah, at least it's all your fault. Now, Milica, it has a question. I think you're asking about the frames, Milica.
She was, and I didn't know the answer, so I told her to check with them.
I wouldn't say it's an additional 10% off. My guess is that you get one discount. That's usually how these things are. And the 10% off, right? The 20% off, is that for the custom panels right now?
I think that was the panels. So they're two different codes and they probably do not mix at all. Yeah.
Okay. And so Lisa, you gave them the code, right? For
Yes, I did. I put it in the banner.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Here's a question from Ellen. Does matte medium work the same as a barrier? Lisa, I would say yes. Would you say yes?
I think so. Yeah.
I will say the only thing I've heard, and because I don't use a lot of matte medium for superficial things, I use it for glue. Like that's my glue. I have heard, but can't say that I've seen it happen, that matte medium is a little tiny bit more cloudy because what makes it matte, right, is something in there. So if you're thinking of, well, I want it to be crystal clear, matte medium being used to seal things in, if you keep it super thin, you're probably fine. But if you're thinking about doing multiple layers of it, I think I just be aware that it might get a little bit like you might see a little haze or something.
That's right. And they do say, I've heard people say that they are making a clear one, but just make sure you look at the bottle because, you know, it shows you that scale of transparency. So I haven't found a clear one yet, but anyway, yeah.
Who's talking about that? A clear, like golden?
I think I've heard that golden, or what's the other company that makes some of those things?
Liquitex?
Yes. So I haven't seen it yet though, so I don't know.
Yeah, these two companies, Liquitex and Golden, are so progressive, I'd say, and like they're always doing research and tests, and they have great websites where they show you that, especially Golden. And they also, if you are in the US or maybe even out of the US and you email them and say, hey, can you send me your color charts? They'll send you this beautiful packet of like, not just their color charts, it's like a folder they send you. And it has a booklet that, and either the palettes are separate or they're enclosed in the booklet, but they talk about all the mediums and what they're for, because they've got like so many, all the GAC 100s and 200s and 300s. You're like, well, you know, it's hard to remember what they're all for. Okay, guys, we want to hear from you guys. What do you want us to talk about next Monday?
Yeah.
We'd love your suggestions. Now, I will hopefully be close to done with my series. I may start another one. And I'll talk a little bit about what's next for what I plan to do in my studio is I want to scale up. So I want to start a whole series of cold wax and oil paintings that are at least, I think I've got a ton of 36 by 36 inch panels. And for a gallery that I'm new in, one little thing that I'm aware of is that, you know, when clientele aren't real familiar with your work yet, you know, they're more likely to buy something kind of small to get a taste of what it feels like to own your work. And then they might want to buy something a little bigger and then something a little bigger. So because I'm new to the Art Spirit Gallery in Coeur d'Alene, I have sold quite a few of the, one I did a demo of here, the cold wax and oil one that I called Pathways, that one actually sold. That was done on paper and then mounted on panel. So, but I think I want to work directly on panel, and I want to continue with my lexicon series. I'm kind of excited about it because what happens with acrylic and collage paper. So I think what I might do with my collage paper is scale my collage paper way up. And that won't be easy because, you know, 12 by 12 is usually what you get. But I would glue it down first onto the gessoed panel. And then I would put clear Liquitex gesso over that so that it's going to accept cold wax and oil. And then, you know, the whole process becomes the very same. There's more drying time and that kind of thing. But I kind of want to work with both acrylic and cold wax and oil and see, compare and contrast. But so I want to have at least 12 paintings ready in a year that are 36 by 36 or larger, and hopefully go even larger scale, maybe on canvas. But I got to work it out on the small scale first, because this is like a new, you know, like I was saying, this series for me, I think it has legs. And so I did the 12 by 12, and then I want to do some maybe 24 by 24s, and then 36 by 36, and then 48 by 48. And then maybe I'll do a couple of 4 by 6 feet, guys, in preparation for the show. Yeah. So, okay. So any ideas here?
Yes, there's a couple people asking.
All right. Amy Whitehouse. Yeah. I do think that I may, the only difficulty with these lives is that, I mean, I can turn my camera around and I can do the big wall. But as you know, the interest level in a demo, large scale, where you're dealing with oil and cold wax that doesn't dry, I can show you the beginning stages of that. And that could be exciting because, you know, my beginning stages are going to look like a slop board. That's the whole point. And then hopefully in a week it would dry enough so I could go back into it and start to find my shapes and do the layering and masking. There'd be a ton of masking, and the idea of collage paper put down first rather than trying to collage it on later, which I don't really do. Not had good luck with that. Have any of you working in oil and cold wax had good luck with incorporating thin collage paper into your cold wax medium paintings? Because I have had some okay results, but not to the point where I feel like it's part of my toolkit. I can see putting it down as an underpainting and then putting the clear gesso over it. And I think that's probably what I would do. So I'm curious if anyone out there. Encaustic, yeah, Ellen. The other thing about encaustic is that, okay, Karen Williams, fixing marks. I like that because that's something I get asked an awful lot. You do too, Lisa, right? Fixing marks. That's a good demo. Okay, what is the Elsa Campbell? I'm just sort of trying to catch up on some questions here. What's the difference between glazing medium and airbrush medium? You know, to be honest, I don't really know. I've only had airbrush medium. Lisa, you must know.
I have both, and airbrush medium is like water. Glazing medium's a little thicker, but basically they both slow down the drying, and you know, so then, you know, they get thicker as they go, right? You get the different gels and mediums, so they're all the same. They're just watered down a little more, but they're done however they do it, you know. So I don't think it's just water, but so I shouldn't say watered down, but they're thinner. You know, airbrush is the thinnest as far as I know, then the glazing, and I use them both, and I love them both for different things.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I use the airbrush medium for expanding like the volume of something.
Yes.
And I want more water. Like I'll use the word watery, but it's not watery.
Yes,
but,
right.
I've never had the glazing medium. Maybe I should try it.
It's just, you know, a different thickness. And I mean, I use it for different abstract things that are very non-conventional. You know, I squirt it on my canvas and let it drip, and then, you know, I'm waiting on things to dry, and then I scrape away to see what scrapes away, and wherever that stuff was, it scrapes away, you know, whatever paint I also put on there. So it does really fun things. They're both really fun to experiment with. So if you haven't experimented with them, put them in squirt bottles and squirt away.
I need to come visit you, Lisa. Okay, well, listen, guys, we're at the top of the hour, and I want to thank you guys for being here. I want to thank Lisa, my wonderful co-host, and she and I just have such great fun together. And okay, and then I see a question from Denise. Have you done a large-scale piece on panel? I don't know if you mean with my lexicon series, which I will be doing. That's definitely one of my goals. But yeah, so yeah, sorry if we didn't get to all your questions, but let me just check this one question here, or not question, but comment. Both Golden and Liquitex will tell you on their websites what can and can't be done with their different mediums. Okay, great. Sealing and hearing, great comments, you guys. I want to thank you all for being here too. Please, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe, because I can't tell you how crazy YouTube has gotten. I started like doing YouTube in 2018, and then the pandemic hit, and now it's like I feel like it's hard to reach people. And so just by you guys subscribing, maybe telling your friends to subscribe, it's helpful to me just to like keep things going. And because, you know, I love to share with people, and it's a lot more fun to share when people are there. Imagine that. Okay, so thank you all for being here, and keep those below this video. You guys, the video will live on the channel forever. So if you think of an idea, please come back in the comments section below the video and say, I just thought of this. I like Pam and Lisa to do this. Okay, so this is an ongoing thing. Please put your comments there because we will look at them and we'll grab some things and let you know what's up next. Thank you so much, Lisa, and thanks everybody.
You're
Bye
welcome.
now.
Bye.